So I made a vow not to talk about politics because it's very upsetting. We all know that, and it's kind of pointless at this point. So I just made this vow that I wasn't, but I ran across something today that I just thought to myself that I have to talk about this because it's so bizarre and so weird, and it just needs to be discussed. Um, Apparently Native Americans are not Native Americans. Well, they're not American. They're Native, but they're not American. And there's this group, this far right group, that's claiming that Native Americans are not Americans and they should go back to where they came from. Where are they gonna go back to? They're gonna go back to Siberia, 'cause that's where the original Native Americans came from. They came from Siberia over the Bering Strait during the Ice Age. Where are they gonna go back to? That is bizarre. That is so bizarre. And that goes to show you what propaganda does, and that goes to show you how evil fascism is. And it just shows you right there, where do these white people come from? You know, they always been here. They just didn't have the ability to speak. They didn't have a platform, so they just thought about all these things, but they just never talked about it. And so this is why Trump became president again. It wasn't had nothing to do with the economy. It had everything to do with fascism. It had everything to do with white supremacy and Christian evangelical nationalist religion. That's what it had everything to do. It had nothing to do with the people. Well, it had to do with the people, but it had to do with a certain type of demographic of people. So I mean, it's horrible. And another thing that I ran across today, apparently in Newark, ICE, the group that's targeted, doing the deportation or whatever, they raided this business in Newark, New Jersey, and they didn't have a warrant. They just ran in there and started taking people and stuff. So that is the craziest shit ever. You know why? For a couple of reasons. One reason that it's illegal. You need a warrant to do that, and you have to go through a lot of red tape to do something like that. For them to just go out and do that, that's Gestapo shit. That's Nazi shit. That's what the secret police did in Russia and in Germany to round up people. So that's actually happening in our country. That is really weird, and that was really fucking scary, because it's just such a subtle thing. And if you would have asked me months ago if Trump was going to become president, first I would have said no, because he was doing terrible, in the polls and everything. I don't know how he became president, but if you would have told me that this was going to happen within this first week, that they were going to be rounding up people, I would be like, no, that can't happen, because they need to have a warrant. They need to do it in a legal type of way. But for them to just bust into a place and do that, that's kind of World War II tactics. Those are tactics that the Nazis did. That's toxic that the secret police in Russia did. I mean, and it's crazy, it's bizarre, it's weird. It would be laughable and funny if it wasn't so fucking scary. It's such a weird thing and stuff. And another thing is, we all know that this new Republican Party is not the same Republican Party that my mother's a Republican, my family all Republican, they're all Catholic and they're all Republican. That's a different type of Republican, and I know unequivocally that my mom probably voted for Trump. I don't talk to my mom, I haven't in many years and stuff, but I know she probably voted for Trump and stuff. She's a Republican, but this new strain of Republican MAGA is like so to the right that it's a cult. We all know that. It's bizarre as a cult, and the cult leader is a sociopath, Such a weird thing and stuff. And what's weird about it is that these people is they don't see legitimacy in anything other than themselves. If you really have half a brain and you exercise critical thinking, you can see the hypocrisy, in everything that these people are doing, these MAGA Republican people. One of the most hypocritical thing they're doing is they're actually targeting blue states. They're not targeting um red states, for the simple fact that the immigrants that are in these red states, they fuel the economy. So these red states are making money off of these immigrants. So ICE is not targeting red states, they're targeting blue states, because we all know that these MAGA people hate Democrats, so they hate woke people and they hate blue states. So that's the states they're doing raids on. They haven't done one raid in a red state. That's because they want to keep the illegal aliens in these red states because it generates money. that is the highest form of hypocrisy that I ever ran across in recent years. I mean, it's such a really strange and bizarre thing, and I'm not surprised. And another thing, Trump was talking either earlier today or yesterday, and he was talking about California. He did something that was so bizarre and so out of scope of anybody that should be in politics. What he said was he was talking about California, and he was talking about giving aid to California. They would say, well, when are you going to give aid to California? He said, well, as soon as they stop, doing illegal voting. And I'm like, dude, you won. You're the president now. You won. Why are you still bringing up illegal voting? Why is that an issue? Because it's an excuse. It's an excuse not to give money and not to help blue states because he doesn't like blue states. He hates Democrats. Most MAGA Republicans hate Democrats, so they don't want to help. And that's so weird that these states are tax-paying states. These are states that are actually paying taxes. Matter of fact, California pays the highest taxes in America, and they're not going to get any of that money back because there's a blue state or because the governor is Democratic. It's just such a bizarre and weird thing and stuff. And that's what he said today, and like no president in the history of America would ever have said something like that because it's for one thing it's illegal. They can't say that. They can't give someone an ultimatum because this is not like a business. This is actually a country. This is a democracy. So you can't speak in those terms, and you can't use ultimatums for people to get what you want. Just because those people don't favor your political view. It's just such a weird and bizarre thing, man. What's going on, and what makes it even more weird is so subtle, and everything. So I want to educate a couple of people on a couple of linguistics, if you will, for lack of a better word, or rhetorics, whatever you want to call it, for you can understand what's really going on. So when people like Republican MAGA, I'm not talking about classic Republicans, I'm talking about MAGA, the new Republican Party, when they talk about Democrats, that translate as black, Asian, trans, Mexicans, migrants, and anything that is not white bread, red bread, whatever you want to call it, American, that's Democrats. So when people call these damn Democrats, they say all these damn niggas. That's basically what they're saying. In a nutshell. And so just keep that in mind whenever you hear that talky point of the Democrats. Whenever they say Democrats are so bad, so these people have a pure hatred. They have a pure unadulterated hatred for Democrats because they have a pure unadulterated hatred for trans people, for you know Mexican people, for Asian people, for black people, Black Lives Matter, anything that's just not white. And whenever you hear the word make America great again, that translates as make America white again, because that is the agenda that is behind this whole movement, is making America white again and getting rid of all the non-white people. And right now it's starting off with illegal aliens, and now it's gonna, and they talk about Native Americans right now, and they're saying the Native Americans, and the weird thing, that's not even enough Native Americans to deport. What did the Native Americans do? Just for the simple fact that they just had brown skin, but what are they doing? What trouble are they causing? They're in their reservation getting drunk, and everything, and not giving a shit about the white man, and everything. So why are they such a threat? Why is these people are so vile and so evil and so contentious and so maniacal, that they just like so hateful, and it's weird to me because I never experienced this in my life. I studied about serial killers. I'm into like true crime stories. It fascinates me. I always did as a child and everything. And for the psychological aspect of it, why people do these things, why people are sociopath, how you become a sociopath, are you born like that, how you become a sociopath. I'm curious. I'm a nerd. I'm curious about all those things and everything. And so I try to find logic and stuff. Now this movement, other than the fact that it's a hateful movement, I can't really find any logic in it because it's all tied into conspiracy theories, it's all tied into lies, it's all tied into fascism and racism, and like it's amazing to me that people will give up their right and their freedom, but just because they have a hatred, for trans people, because they have a hatred for people of color, And the weird thing about it is, if you want to speak fairly, these jobs that are being taken away supposedly by migrants or by people that are coming and out from this country, supposedly don't belong here, wherever. These jobs, these white people don't want. They don't want these jobs. Someone needs to do those jobs in order to fuel the economy. So a good rule of thumb to get people to work these jobs. As a matter of fact, the reason why the economy, skyrockets since after COVID is for the simple fact that it was an influx of migrants that came to this country. Yeah, a lot came illegally, but a lot came legally too, and they fueled the economy. If we were to keep on going on that path, this economy would have been the best economy in the world, and it would have just kept, kept on skyrocketing. But the simple fact that that's not going to happen. It's going to be stopped because in office the person that is interested in lining the pockets of billionaires, and cutting all our programs for disenfranchised and marginalized people in order to birth these new corporations that are privately owned corporations that will only be affordable by people that have money, and meaning that the people who don't have money are not going to even be able to enjoy these new found companies and stuff, and only rich people won't enjoy them. So that's going to make the division even wider between the rich and the poor, and it's going to shrink to the middle class to the point where there's not even going to be a middle class anymore. It's just going to be poor people and wealthy people, and that's basically, I think that is the agenda from, since the beginning of all this. You think about it, like, there's two people that spoke about this. There's one guy in George Collins. Everyone knows who he is. He's a political commentator. He was a stand-up comedian. He was a genius, and he's one of my favorites. He's one of my icons and my idols. I love this guy, and he died a while back and stuff. But if you look at any of his stand-up and any of his political commentaries, whenever he talked about, America, he would talk about it in such a funny way, but it was all true stuff, And he would talk about the owners of this country, and he would talk about the political system. He would talk about the religious institution, and everything he talked about in the 1990s. He did a stand-up in the 1990s that would blow your mind. It was all prophetic, and he talked about all this stuff, and he talked about the owners of the country, and he talked about how they seeping into the government and they want to control the government, and also they want to do it by using soft language, like getting rid of all the language that defines and explains certain things, but using language that doesn't really explain things, that really puts a wool over our eyes and brainwashes us into thinking certain things that are not true, because we're not exercising critical thinking and everything. And he talked about that, he talked about that. And I, when I was listening to that stand up in the 90s, I was like, this can never happen. This is America. That would never happen. Too much people will be against that. That's just something that would destroy this country and everything. But you know what? That's happening. That's been happening in the last few months, man. And there's so much people that want that to happen. These people that are on fire, like, all these people like in Fox News, and all these like Republican people, and all these like, powerful rich white people, they want that to happen. And the reason why, if you look at, when he does his thing, the people that were sitting next to him were all billionaires, and that shows you who he's in cahoots with, who he's working for. It's the billionaires, And there's another guy named David Icke who written a book called Children of the Matrix, and he talks about technology, and he was talking about stuff in the early 90s that's happening right now, and he talks about these bloodlines, and he talks about preserving like a certain, master race of people, which is what Hitler wanted to do, and which is Trump is trying to do right now. Trump is trying to preserve a master race of people on Earth, and there's these people that are, namely MAGA Republicans, that think that that's a feasible thing, that could possibly happen if you get the right person. These people don't like Trump. They think he's arrogant, they think he's ignorant, and they don't like the fact that he is a leader of their movement. But they need him because he's divisive, and he separates people, and he's someone is labeling him a masked distraction. That's what he's called right now. I think in the Midas. You ever watch the Midas Touch? I don't know who I'm saying, you, but the Midas Touch is this network that talks about all this amazing stuff that's going on in the government and everything. And I'm obsessed with that show. I watch it a lot. It's on YouTube and stuff. But in the Midas Touch, they talked about he's considered the distraction, a person that distracts from everything. So whenever, eggs are like $10 now almost, and so instead of people thinking about eggs, they just think about the latest weird thing that he's saying and everything. And so he's he's a puppet, basically. But behind him are all the billionaires, with all the people who've been doing this for the last 20 years, ever since the internet started getting popular 20 years ago, whatever. All these people have been trying to consolidate their power and pass it through their bloodline. It's such a weird and bizarre thing, but it's all tied into like white supremacy, and it's something that European white people, and this is not, I'm not talking about race, because there's a lot of poor white people in this country, and there's a lot of working class white people that don't subscribe to that philosophy or that right wing evangelical nationalism way of thinking and stuff, but they just want to, buy a house and send their kids to college, and just live like everyone else. And also, these people actually like black people. They actually like Mexican food and Mexican people, and they have no problem with Native Americans. These people want to live with other people. And but you have this other group of people that are white people that are very powerful, that have money, that are evangelical, that are Christian, that they don't want to share this country with any other race other than people who are like them. Not even other white people who are poor, who are not educated, who are marginalized, who are disenfranchised white people, but white people who are their class. So it's all about, it's a class struggle. The class right now is happening. We look at, you study Nazism and Hitler and the Third Reich and everything. If you see how it started, I studied about Nazis. I studied about World War II and history. I'm a World War II buff and everything. And one of the big things about the transition of the Nazi party was really bizarre. It was called the Workers' Party when it first started, so it was supposedly for the people. But what happened later on, it turned into a class thing when it was about upper class German people who were educated. Then after that, it changed into eugenics, and meaning, a person's features, how their eyes look, how their lips were formed, how their nose were pointy, and how they look Nordic and how they look Aryan and stuff. So it just kept getting deeper and deeper and deeper. But it started first would be in the party of the people. And just like when Trump started talking about the party of the people. He started talking about, I'm going to do this for the people, I'm going to do this for the people, I'm going to do this for the people. As soon as all those people, who a lot of them are actually fucking racist people, and they don't want to, and they homophobic, and they Christian, so they don't want to live around trans people, they don't want to live around Mexican people. They think Mexican people are still in their job. They think everything that is wrong with America and the world has to do with Mexican people, whatever. So these people voted for Trump because they thought, well, he's going to help me because I'm a white person. But no, he's not going to help you because you're not a rich white person. You are a white person, I give you that. But you are poor, so he's not going to help you. Dave Chappelle said that. Dave Chappelle said he's helping me, not you. Because Dave Chappelle, even though he's black, he's a rich black guy, and so his taxes are going to be lower at the expense of the poor people. So that's what's going on right now. But it's reminiscent of what went on in the Nazi party, and that's how fascist, that's what Mussolini did, that's what Stalin did. That stuff that happens in like communism, and it's so weird that he ran on that token of communists and Marxists and all that shit when he's the communist and he's the Marxist, because he's working for the oligarchs, the rich billionaires. It's just a really bizarre thing, and people are just not, people think it's all about Democrats and Republicans fighting, but people don't know that there's a tapestry behind that people are not reading, people are not comprehending, people are not understanding, because they don't know that much about history. They don't know how history repeats itself, and how people get brainwashed into things. So all these people that voted for Trump and everything, they starting to see that he's not their man, that he's not for the people, that he's for people, but people that are like him. He always been about people like him, billionaires, people who have money, and they want people to work and be poor and continue to be poor because they want to make all their money, reap all the money, and pass it on to their generational grandchildren or whatever, and just pat and keep it in the families, where when other people won't have the advantage of coming out of their poverty, coming out of their lower income world in order to prosper. Like, they don't want that's kind of the thing that wants to be taken away. And this is why they keep mentioning all these programs being dismantled, like Social Security, like Medicare, Medicaid, and all that shit. The reason why, because those help people get out of their marginalization, and it helps them to elevate themselves to a possible different class of existence. And getting back to my original assessment, when I was talking about the guy David Icke, who's a British writer who written a book called Children of Matrix, he talked about that in this book. That's what I was trying to say, but I got off track a little bit. But he talks about how people how these bloodlines are so important to them, you know, because all these people belong, they all Freemasons. Just think about that. When these rich white people are Freemasons, you know, and Freemasons been around, you know, that's a whole different video blog, and I could talk about that for hours and everything because I specialize and I study a lot about the Freemasons, and that's what this is all about. It's all about the Freemasons being at the really high ruling class of society and wiping out the middle class because the reason why they want to wipe out the middle class because the middle class is a good place to be, a position to be, because those are people who go to college, get a college degree, they just start and buying a house and they starting to save money, so on and so forth. And those people are in a good position to become rich and become entrepreneurs and become, you know, wealthy. And these people on the top don't want that. These people want to remain on the top, only a very selective few families, and they want to get rid of the middle class because the middle class is in between the poor and the wealthy, and then just have the working class and the poor just way on the bottom, and they don't have any advancements, meaning they don't have any government programs to help them advance to become middle class, but they would just stay poverty stricken and marginalized. And it doesn't matter if you're black, white, Chinese, Asian, Mexican, it doesn't matter. They keep them in the lower rings of society, and then that's how they want society, and that's how Nazi Germany was. When Nazi Germany started off as the Workers' Party, it was about helping all the people and elevating all the people to a higher way of living, to a higher social class, you know. And then when Hitler became the chancellor, that was like, no way, this is not going to happen. It's only going to be very selected people who are going to live in the higher rings of society, who's going to be part of the ruling class, and they have to look a certain way, they have to dress a certain way, they have to act a certain way, they have to be part of one party, and that party was the Nazi party. You know, so that's basically what these evangelical white ring Christian nationalist people want to do, and those are the people in power right now, and that's the thing that is the most scary about it, you know. I mean, it's such a bizarre thing and everything, but I just suggest that people do research, and what's going on right now is really fucking scary. It's really weird, and it's just gonna get worse, I think. And so,